Now, if a person wants to enter into, say, P&I, right, as a maybe as a correspondent or as part of the club in the loss prevention side, is there a definitive career path, or if you could suggest, what are the best ways for a person to possibly get into this side of things on the claim side, on the P&I side, if you could guide us on that. And maybe Annie, we could stop sharing the presentations as well now. Yeah. Over to you, John.
Captain Gaurav, I think that's a really interesting question. The fact is, the P&I clubs are always going to require some maritime expertise in-house on staff. So there's going to be a P&I loss prevention function existing certainly for a long time to come. How does one actually get into that? Well, despite my age, I'm really only 21 here, guys. But the fact is, long experience is helpful to join the loss prevention function. If not all, you don't have to have wide experience, but it certainly helps. In other words, if mariners wish to come ashore and they wish to express an interest in joining the loss prevention functions, what helps greatly is to have width of experience. If you've been on a bulker, container ship, a tanker, or with some experience of many ship types, that's a distinct advantage. Simply because when you arrive in to the loss prevention function, you're going to be asked a lot of questions, both internally from your underwriters and from your claims people, but also from the membership as well. I could have mentioned earlier on, just to give a perspective on that, Captain Gaurav, that the North Standard this year is likely to receive something of the order of 4,500 inquiries from the membership on all aspects of ship operations, trading, cargoes. You can imagine any kind of issue relating to the operation, unsafe operation of a vessel, ports. So the width of experience is great. Now, that's fleshing out the answer to your question about how does one get in there. Well, clearly, if you have an interest in this area, then applying directly to each of the individual P&I clubs, maybe through the HR function, or if you have a contact in the clubs existing, you have a friend who actually works in the P&I, in the loss prevention function, or indeed is a claims handler, or indeed is an underwriter, a quiet approach to them just to find out what it's like and if there's an opportunity there. I have to say it's a very unsophisticated, because it's so niche, it's relatively unsophisticated. A cold letter directly to HR can be as effective as any way of starting the process of applying. But I would say that a couple of traits are necessary. One, of course, I mentioned is their wide experience. But two, of course, is this belief, this absolute commitment to lifelong learning, because you can imagine 4,500 queries this year. You're going to be learning a huge amount. And it can be overwhelming. In fact, it is overwhelming in the first months, 6 months, 12 months perhaps. But as you grow in your professional knowledge, it becomes a little obviously easier with time, for sure. But that's a kind of broad description of what's involved in it, and how to approach if you have an interest in getting into it. I would say also, and this is back to Annie's territory, that the P&IQ exams are very, very helpful as a general knowledge to the industry, but they're particularly relevant for those people who join into the P&I clubs, particularly for mariners coming ashore, because it's a quick way of getting mariners coming into loss prevention, I should say, but because it's a quick way, an accelerated way of acquiring deep subject matter knowledge in a relatively short period.
Thank you so much, John. And this examination probably would also show the person is inclined for continuous learning because the person has done.
Agreed. Yes, correct. Indeed, no extra qualification is too much. When you're in the business of selling yourself, the better you presented your CV, the better content on your CV, of course, is competitive advantage. So that's a fairly obvious statement, I think, but necessary sometimes to say.
And I would add to that whereas I highly rate the P&I qualification and professional development and continuous learning, I think it's important to note that no club would expect any applicant for a position in a loss prevention role to have already taken the P&I qualification. That would be just as much something that applicant might show an interest in doing once they join a loss prevention team,
Sure.
because it's not within everybody's remit to take this qualification or any qualification and all of the extra bits of that financially and time-wise before taking on a role. And I think the IG is abundantly aware of that. And just to add to John's comments, which I fully back, of course, I think when people have asked me this question with a claims focus, because of course those kinds of conversations come my way from time to time, I often refer people who might be interested in a role in an IGP&I club to look at the LinkedIn profiles for the different clubs, because I think each club presents themselves and their culture and their focus in a different way on LinkedIn. And whereas you can't really know the culture of an organization until you join it, I do think there is a perception that all 12 clubs are the same, but that isn't the case. And I think all of them are unique in their own way. And some of that comes across, I think, in LinkedIn and following there, and also, of course, on the websites.
Sure. Thank you so much, both of you, for your inputs. And what is good to know, and Captain John, nowadays is that the experience ashore or experience on sailing is valued a lot over here, because a lot of the jobs which come nowadays, they probably would like a mariner who's young and maybe a couple of years in command, but is mentioning that wide range of experience across vessels, that's probably more beneficial, or that's probably better because you've now dealt with multiple cases and which you can leverage in your job. And very well in points on the membership, on having a look at the LinkedIn, and of course then everyone knows you can go to the website and apply to the HR. So thank you for that.